Hi, all my GLP-1 friends. How are you today? I'm Lori. I have lost 60 pounds on my 13-month journey on tirzepatide. I've been on maintenance for about 2 months now, and I'm going to ask the question, are we eating enough? And I'll use me. Am I eating enough? Well, let's find out. Am I getting enough fiber? Am I getting enough protein? Let's evaluate and let's find out. So I think you should always plan your meals planning ahead. You don't have to plan days ahead, just you know what you're going to have the next day or at least the next meal. So you get an idea of your calories and your protein and so forth. And I tend to do a lot of the same eating. I'm switching it up now and then because eating the same thing all the time is not really good for you. Your body gets too used to it and help create a stall or along those lines, and nobody wants that. So we'll start off with breakfast. My normal breakfast, I've never been a big breakfast eater, so I usually have a protein shake. I really can't put too much in my mouth before 10 o'clock, and I'm an early riser. I work early. Even if I work out, I usually wait till after I work out. Now, my protein shake I make with almond milk, and I throw some ice cubes in there, and I throw some collagen in there because you get some extra protein, and collagen is just so good for you. It's so good for skin tightening. It's good for your skin, your nails, your hair, all sorts of good stuff. And we need all the help we could get. And I usually will throw some spinach or some kale into the protein shake. And then it takes me about an hour and a half or so to drink it. I kind of like it like a thick smoothie, milkshakey consistency. So I usually don't buy the pre-made protein shakes because I prefer them a little bit thicker. So that pretty much takes care of my breakfast. On days that I do happen to sleep late and just get a late start or whatever, occasionally I'll have a hard-boiled egg or two just because it's quick, it's simple, protein, and don't have to think too much about it. It's not super filling, especially if I just have one hard-boiled egg. And on occasion I'll have a whole wheat English muffin toasted, but it's rare, but I do like to switch things off once in a while. I'm not super big on protein bars, but if I'm on the go a lot, I'll grab one to go because even though I could put my protein shake in an insulated cup, sometimes it's just not real handy carrying it around all day or all morning, I should say. And so occasionally I will have a bar, but it's rare. So then let's move on to lunch. My typical lunch, I really like shrimp, which is some lemon is good. I'm kind of hooked on turkey loaf because I can make a turkey loaf on the weekend and pretty much slice it up and have it most of the week. Occasionally I'll have some grilled chicken, or if we have some leftovers, occasionally I'll have the leftover protein. I usually have a little salad, and at work I keep a little bit of raspberry vinaigrette. So I have that, or I'll have some sliced cucumbers or something along those lines. If for some reason I get really hungry, sometimes I'll get some guacamole. I usually don't make it, but I'll buy it organic, no other ingredients basically. Or occasionally I'll have a hard-boiled egg or a piece of cheese for a snack. And on the rare occasion, sometimes I'll have some Quest chips if I'm really feeling a need for something salty or crunchy. And that pretty much takes care of my lunch. Dinner, I'm really big on fish. My cardiologist tells me it's really good for you. I live in South Florida, so fresh fish is abundant here. If it swims in the ocean, it's going to probably end up in my plate one day. I really like snapper, salmon, mahi, all sorts of fresh fish. And if you need tips on cooking it, on my page I have a cooking series where I show how to cook a lot of the fish and a lot of other meals also. And my main goal is to have my whole dinner in about 10 to 12 minutes because I work late, I'm tired, and the fish is a little bit lighter than beef or pork or even chicken, so I tend to have a lot of fish. I use my air fryer a lot to make it. Sometimes I'll use a grill pan or I'll saute it. It's just one of my go-tos, and like I said, I have plenty of recipes on my site if you're interested, and also the spices that I use and how to make the mixes and so forth. And like I said, occasionally I do have some steak. I try to keep it to a leaner cut of beef, and occasionally I'll have pork, and chicken is a natural go-to. Even occasionally had hamburger. I try to buy most of my meat. I try to at least get grass-fed. If I could get organic, all the better, but I at least try to get grass-fed. And with it, I usually have a steamed vegetable or two. Now, my dessert, I really love cut up fruit, fresh fruit. And I'm fortunate enough to have a farmer's market right by the house, so they cut it up fresh there. And one of my favorite, which is honeydew, and even though it's not honeydew season, they are getting it, I believe now they're getting it from South America, whatever. They get their fruit shipped in from all over so that all the fruit is in season, and that is like my go-to dessert. Now, if I'm really getting that itch for something extra sweet, I like Quest and Atkins. They have like a peanut butter cup type of thing. And they're, depending on the size you get, they're anywhere from, I think, like to 150 calories, very little sugar. So, you know, I have that on occasion. And that pretty much wraps up what I eat. Very rarely do I stray from that, although I do occasionally. With my dinner, I'll also have half of a potato. I try to keep it sweet potato or maybe even some brown rice or some quinoa. But I don't do that too often because I am a little bit mindful of my carbs, and I get plenty of carbs from the fruit and also from the vegetables. But once in a while you just have that carb craving, and just go for it. I just, you know, keep it a little simple. Even if I'm going to have baked potato, when I usually only have half, I usually split it with my wife, and I don't go too crazy with butter or sour cream. Just a little tab of grass-fed butter, and usually that's about it. So I'm going to see my totals here. Okay, total for my typical day in calories going from MyFitnessPal is about 1,100. Now I'll also throw in another 100 for miscellaneous because sometimes I have a little bit of cream in my coffee. Sometimes I have a little bit extra of the vinaigrette on my salad. So it's basically around 1,200 calories. And like I said, I don't really track my food, but I do, you know, occasionally just to make sure that the serving size and the calorie amounts are correct and that I am eating enough. Now that I'm on maintenance, if I find that I'm losing weight, I'll add something a little more caloric to the mix. So occasionally I'll add, you know, a carb or something with dinner if I feel that. Or like I said, I'll throw some fresh fruit into my smoothie, that type of thing. So my protein for the day is around 130, so that hits my goal. My fiber is about 12, 13. I could use a little bit more, but one thing that I have to say is because I make up my protein shakes fresh in the morning, they didn't have the exact brand that I use, so I had to compromise in MyFitnessPal, and it really does have about 3 or 4 more fiber, so I'm really more about 16 or 17 of fiber. I'd like to get it up there a little bit more, but I haven't been having any problems, so that's that. The fat is about 40 with 9 of saturated. The cholesterol is 270, and you know, that's pretty good. Like I said, I just have to make sure that I'm not eating the same thing over and over because your body gets used to it. And one good thing about tracking once in a while is, like, I forget about some meals. You know, I go back and I look, I'm like, yeah, I really like that. Why don't I have that again? So, you know, there are some advantages. And like I said, I don't do it very often, and I just kind of like zip through. I usually track maybe 2, maybe 3 days a month, like I said, just to keep myself honest. And that's pretty much it. So I guess I do get enough food. And like I said, if I start losing weight again on maintenance, I'll have to add something a little bit more caloric. I haven't run into that yet. So far, I'm still playing around with my doses. 7.5 seems to be doing good. One of my doctors suggested that I do like half of it on Sunday and half of it on Wednesday, and I'm kind of figuring like, why? You know, it's like, I don't really have a problem with the appetite suppression on the last day, but you know, deal with that. Just a little extra protein and extra water, because you don't know how important water is. Make sure that you stay hydrated. One little trick that you could do to see if you're getting enough water is when you pee. If it's really yellow, chances are you haven't had enough water. So keep that water intake. They say if you have a glass of water right before your meal, you won't eat as much. Again, going by tracking what I'm eating, on the occasional time that I do track it, it seems like I'm getting enough. So hopefully you learned something. Please don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and notification button so you don't miss out on any of my videos.